Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live career Q&A show with me, Heather Austin. I'm so excited to see you guys here in the chat. I'm so glad that you are joining me today. We have so much to cover. Today, we are talking all about how to find a job during the coronavirus recession. So today I'm going to share with you 6 COVID-19 job search tips. Now, when I was designing this live stream for you, we probably could turn each tip into an entire live stream on its own. So get ready to take notes, get ready to do some serious learning. Also, let me know in the chat, where are you joining us from today? So tell me where are you in the world today joining us from? I'm super excited to see that there are so many of you already in there saying hello to each other. We have so much fantastic content to cover for you. Again, if you can, make sure you're taking notes because we have some fabulous free resources that we are going to share with you today. Also, I have my very special teammate, Tori, is in the chat. She will be moderating the chat. She's also going to be taking your questions. So if you have questions throughout the live stream, make sure you pop those in, put a question mark before your question. She will get those to me so that I can make sure we get those answered before this live stream ends. Now, before we jump into the content, again, I'm sharing 6 COVID-19 job search strategies with you today. Before we get into it, I have to announce we designed a special new training because of this current situation that we're all in. We designed a special new training just for you. We are holding this new training next week, next Tuesday. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you. If you have not yet registered for this training, you want to make sure you do that because it is going to propel you forward more than if you didn't take this training. So make sure you jump in and take a look at the training. Let me show you what it is really quick. How to write a resume that lands you more interviews and better job offers. So Tori's going to pop the link to this training. It's our very free, first time we're doing this free live virtual event. We are going to learn a handful of things. So if you look at the agenda, this is something that we're going to be covering, how to quickly customize your resume to fit almost any job. We're also going to be talking about how to write an attention-grabbing resume summary that hits employer-specific pain points. We'll then be talking about how to make your resume ATS compliant, okay? And then we're going to talk about how to update it if you've been laid off or if you're furloughed because of the current pandemic. So what you'll do when you get to this page, click on Save Your Seat. Make sure you enter your name and an email address that is the best email address for us to reach you so that you can get notified when this training goes live. It is going to be fantastic, action-packed, even more action-packed than today, even though today is pretty action-packed. So let me know in the chat, where are you joining us from today? And we are going to jump into it. Now, we are doing everything we can during this time to make sure that you are learning what you need to be successful in your job search or career advancement in some way. Maybe you're switching careers, maybe you're looking for a promotion, whatever that might be. We are giving it all to you today so that you can be successful in the job search. Also, give this video a big, huge thumbs up. And I normally ask this at the beginning, if you can hear me. So sometimes I get on these live streams and I'm like, is anyone there? Can you guys hear me? And if you've been to one of my live streams before, you know that I ask you guys a lot of questions. So be ready to type into the chat because I ask you a lot of questions. So let's see who we have here. Kristen's here. Hello, Kristen. So glad you're here. Wendy, Breezy, Lillian, Lisa, Kimberly. Hi, Kimberly. How are you? Kevin is here. Rain is here. Jasmine is here. Mel is here. Steve, hello, my good friend from Canada. Sheila is here. It looks like you guys are joining us from all over the world, and what a treat that it is for us to be able to connect. So if you have not yet said hi in the chat, make sure you say hello. Now, let's jump right into it. So I'm going to share my first slide, and of course, it's a question for you guys. What is your biggest challenge job hunting right now? So in our current economic situation, I want to know from you, what is your biggest challenge? So what are some of the frustrations or the roadblocks that you're running up against right now in in your job search. So pop that into the chat. Let me know what your biggest challenge is. I asked my private Facebook community this question a couple days ago, probably last week at some point. And let me tell you kind of some of the things that they have said. So Janie says, I'm concerned about finding a job that I'm passionate about. So again, yes, this is one of those things, and it's one of my passions to help you find a job where you are super excited to get out of bed in the morning, where you know that you're going to a job that you are making a difference, that you are valued, right? Let's see who else. Oh, Gabriel popped in and said that it will be even harder for a new college graduate to find a job. So let me know if that's you. It's hard. It might be harder for a new college graduate. So again, let me know in the chat, what do you struggle with the most right now in your job hunt because of our current economic situation? Let's see. Julie says that I won't find a job that I like. So very similar to what Janie said. She goes on to say, but trying to stay positive. Oh, and isn't it it's sometimes the most difficult thing to do right now is to stay in that positive frame of mind and know that things can move forward and that you can move forward in this. So let me see what you guys have said in the chat to this question. So it looks like we have let me hurry and get to it. Sarah says interviewing phone versus in person. And yes, that's a big, huge trend right now. Phone interviews and video interviews are kind of taking precedence of the of in-person interviews. Now, I think as we move into slowly unlocking ourselves from our homes, right? As we start coming more out, we might see more of those in-person interviews. But for now, you definitely want to get really good at phone interviews and video interviews. Good comment, Sarah. Let's see. David says, I'm applying and no answer yet. David, I'm going to give you some valuable tips to review today. Also, Tori popped into the chat, the Facebook group. If you guys have not yet joined this group, we have, I want to say, Tori, how many people do we have in there? Close to 4,000 or 5,000 people. These are professionals that are just like you guys. We do daily threads every day in this group. We also allow you to post questions and ask questions and post your concerns. And it's really a great place for you to kind of get support in your situation. Now, we do ask you questions before you join. So we don't just let anyone into the group. You have to show us that you really want to be there. So make sure you take a look at that. Tori has put the link in the chat. Let's see. Linda says, finding a good position that fits my interests and passion. Yes, Linda, it looks like you are very similar to some of these others in the Facebook group. Fantastic comments, guys. Keep them coming. Keep interacting with each other in the thread here. We are going to jump right in. So today, again, remember I said, make sure you get your pencils and your paper ready or your favorite pen, because we are going to talk about how to find a job during the coronavirus. And specifically, I'm talking more about the coronavirus recession. Now, here's the thing to keep in mind when it comes to the recession. Some economists believe that, yes, we are in one right now. Some believe it won't happen until July, right? So either way, however we look at this, we are going to be tackling it in terms of this is how you find work in an economic downturn, okay? I'm going to be sharing 6 tips with you. Let's go ahead and jump into tip number 1. Use online networking to your advantage. Now, every slide I share with you guys today, of course, I'm sharing 6 tips. I have a lot of resources behind each slide, so make sure you are ready for those as we get through it. Now, I want to talk about this first one. So using online networking to your advantage. Now, I have 4 separate items that will help you basically be successful with online networking. Now, if you've ever been to a live stream of mine, you know that we talk a lot about in-person and online. Well, there's not a lot of in-person networking going on right now, so we are focusing specifically on online networking. Okay, so the very first thing I want you to keep in mind when it comes to online networking is I want you to join relevant groups. Now, I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that. But when we talk about relevant groups, we are talking about like groups that are specific to your industry. So we're not going to go waste our time hours on end, because you can do that. Trust me, I have done it before, where you join groups and it's just a fun place to like talk and collaborate and yada, 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 but you're not really making a dent towards your job search or your career advancement. So we want you to just join groups that are relevant to your industry. Now, you can find these groups on Facebook and you can also find them on LinkedIn. I'm going to show you a screenshot in just a second of what that looks like to find those groups. You're going to request to join those groups and get to know others in your industry. So you're going to start engaging in thoughtful conversations with people. You're going to share your thoughts. You're going to share your ideas. You're going to share your opinions. Now, you're not going in there to say, hey, yo, guys, I need a job. Can you help me? We're not looking at it that way. We're looking at it in terms of you're going to go into this and you are going to share. You're going to give as much as you can and then ask, okay? So we're not going to go in and take. We want to go in and give. Okay, so think of it that way. Now, let me show you what it would look like if you were to find a job. Let me make sure you guys can see this slide, or find a group inside of Facebook. So you'll notice on my slide here, I go to the Facebook, go to Facebook in the search bar. Let's say that I'm a project manager or I'm looking for work as a project manager. This could be any industry that you're in or any position that you're in. You type that into the top search bar in Facebook. Notice on the right side of the page, you'll notice that you just select groups and then you click to join each group. Now, I'm not going to tell you to join everything. Do not do that because it's a waste of time. You'll be overwhelmed. You won't know which group to go and start participating in, and it turns into a nightmare. So don't do that. I would selectively choose the groups. You can also look at what group, like how many posts are in that group a day. So some posts, you'll notice that this first group listed has over like 200 posts a day. Okay, then you'll notice some other groups might have like 5 posts a day. Keep in mind, are these groups that you join, are you going to be able to get your voice heard? Or are you going to just get lost in the shuffle? So be very, very, very careful about that. You want to make sure that the groups that you join, you will actually be able to kind of say something and get heard. Okay. Now let me show you a quick screenshot of what it would look like in LinkedIn. So very same concept. Almost looks identical. In the top search bar on LinkedIn, you'll type again the search term. So I'm using project management as an example, and then you just filter by groups. You'll notice that this gives you all the groups on LinkedIn. So these LinkedIn and Facebook are a fantastic way to basically find groups or find people that are doing what you want to do or that you're the position that you want. So make sure you take a look at any relevant groups in your industry. Now, let me know in the chat while I'm sharing some more tips with you guys. Are you currently in groups that are specific to your industry? Give me a yes or a no. So a yes or a no in the chat if you are currently a member of a group either on LinkedIn or Facebook related to your industry. Now, here's the thing I want you guys to remember too. Speaking of groups, if you have not yet joined the Career Club, make sure you do that. Tori listed the link again. Maybe she'll pop it again into the chat. Also, all these links that I'm sharing with you or these things that I'm mentioning, they are in the description below this video. So make sure you take a look at the description to join the Career Club. It's a free private community. Again, we screen everyone that comes in. We don't just let everyone in. So make sure you give thoughtful answers to the questions that we ask you in order to get admitted into the group. So let me see what you guys have said in terms of groups and if you guys are in some. It looks like we have a lot of yeses. I almost think we might have more yeses. Well, we're getting some no's in there. So no, we have a lot of no's. Anyone who has said no, Lillian, Wycliffe, Elliot, let's see who else has said no, Loriana, anyone that has said no, make sure you find a group today. That's what I'm going to challenge you with. Find a group today that you can join related to your industry. I shared with you guys the screenshots so you know exactly now how to do it on Facebook and on LinkedIn. Okay, let's jump into, I told you that each slide could probably be a full live stream on its own. Let's jump into the next tip when it comes to online networking, request informational interviews. So this is one of my most favorite all-time networking tips of all. This has helped me and my clients and my students land jobs that they never thought that they could land before just by doing a simple informational interview. So an informational interview is an interview that you request with someone based on the position that you would like or based on the industry that you want to work in. So my goal or my recommendation for you is to target 5 to 7 people. Now, if that sounds too much and you're just like 5 to 7, that's way too many. Do 3 to 5, okay? Just even pick 3 people that you can target that are doing what you want to do or that work in the industry that you want to work in, or maybe someone that has some sort of connection to your ideal work, and ask them for an informational interview. Now, don't get intimidated by this because most people will say yes. They, especially right now when we are all lacking that human contact, that human connection. I don't know about you, but this is kind of like my adult time, right? My husband takes the kids and they leave and they do something while I'm live streaming, right? And it's my time to communicate and connect with you. A lot of people feel that same way. So find someone, 3 to 5 or 5 to 7 people that you can start that relationship with and ask them for an informational interview. Now, I'm going to give you some questions to ask. I don't have the questions here on the slide, but I'm going to give you some questions to ask these individuals. So jot these down. Ask these individuals when you request that informational interview, okay? And here's another thing. You can start this by reaching out to the people via text message if you have their phone number, email, LinkedIn, Facebook Messenger, IG direct message. There's so many ways you can reach out to someone and ask them for an informational interview. And again, don't let this step intimidate you. So here's some things you can ask. Ask them, hey, what do you like most about your job? Remember, you are getting them to talk about themselves. You're not going there to say, hey, this is me and this is what I do. You are going to ask them. You are doing it strictly to initiate a relationship and to get more information about either a position or an industry, okay? You're going to ask them, what do they like? What do you like most about your job? Also ask them, how did you get to where you are now? So how did you, is there like extra training that you did? What type of degree do you hold? Was there a position that kind of propelled you into where you are now? So there's so many ways you can ask this question. Also ask them, what advice would you give someone like me if I want to be in a position like you in like a year or 2 years? Now this happened, this is a true story. I don't know if you guys have heard this, if I've said this on a live stream before. I know I've mentioned it in one of my videos. When I first started teaching at a university, I found a big university in my area and I'm like, I want to teach there. And I thought, am I qualified? Can I do this? And I didn't think I was qualified. In fact, I wasn't. The fact of the matter is I was not qualified, but I knew someone that knew a department chair. Okay, so this is like a third level connection. This is not even like I know someone that knows someone. It was like I knew someone that knew someone that knew someone. So this is like a very far removed connection. And I got this informational interview initiated because I wanted to find out, hey, what could I be doing now so that in 1 year or 2 years I could start teaching for this university? Well, I went in for the informational interview. The guy at the time, this is before people printed resumes, okay? He had a stack of resumes on his desk. They were from people from that had gotten their degrees from Harvard and MIT and Stanford and all those big schools that wanted to teach for him. And he ended up hiring me on the spot. And he said, Heather, you would have never gotten past that applicant tracking system because you don't have a degree from one of those large schools, from one of those schools that we seek professors from, right? And they let me in the door. He ended up hiring me to teach adjunct for probably like 2 or 3 semesters. And then he ended up offering me a full-time job a year after that. And I was teaching 1 month after that informational interview. And I would have never, ever, ever had that chance if I would not have just taken a couple minutes to try and go in and ask him a couple of questions about what can I do? Even if I wasn't teaching for his school, what could I do to teach for another school? So I'm telling you, informational interviews are my favorite. Now, let me know in the chat, have you done an informational interview before? Give me a yes or a no. Have you done an informational interview before? I want to know how that's worked out for you guys, if you've had the chance to do that. And if you haven't, I want you to do one as quickly as possible. You can definitely do one over Zoom calls. You can definitely do one over Skype, over Google Hangout. It does not matter. Just get one requested. So let me know in the chat if you guys have had an informational interview. It looks like we have a couple of no's in here. Oh my goodness, what are you guys waiting for? I'm telling you, that's my next challenge for you, is to request an informational interview. So I'm giving you guys a couple challenges today. A lot of no's. Oh geez, anyone with a yes? Is there anyone out there that has? Oh good, Linda says yes, it has been a very long time ago. Steve, I know, I'm surprised by all the no's too. Marcia says no. Alicia says no. Oh, geez. Okay, you guys, if you walk away with anything today, anything, please do an informational interview. Please go and conduct one of those because it is so valuable. I'm telling you, time and time again, it has helped me. It has helped my clients. It has helped my students. And I preach this stuff, okay? Okay, let's jump into... We have some yeses. Good. Okay, Lori mentioned a comment. Lori, I'm going to touch on this for a second because Lori said, oh, let me find your comment again. Lori said, I don't want to bother folks with all the COVID-19 issues going on. Okay, here's the thing, Lori. A lot of us have extra time on our hands. A lot of us are at home. Now, unless you're a healthcare worker, you might not find yourself in this situation, especially as things kind of slow down. Okay, we are seeing that things are slowing down a little bit in some areas, not every area. And people are now kind of they're not necessarily getting back to normal, but they're doing things to prepare themselves to get back to normal. How I view this is people want that human connection so much right now. They want to connect with other people, and informational interviews or even just reaching out with a simple message to say, hey, would you mind a few minutes if we just did a virtual call for a second? I would love to get to know you better and what it is that you do, because I aspire to be in that same position, or I aspire to work for that same company. People are really kind of, they're wanting that connection. So Lori, and anyone else that is thinking that, please don't let that hold you back, especially right now. Okay. Next item. So number 3, when it comes to using online networking or doing online networking, is to use LinkedIn strategically. Now, I want to share with you guys a quick little template. Now, you guys know I love templates, right? You know that I love templates, but I want to share with you a little template in a second here for how you can reach out to someone on LinkedIn to network with them. Okay. So the very first thing, and let me mention this before I give you this template. The very first thing you want to do is you need to narrow in on positions or companies that interest you. We're not going to go to LinkedIn and blast like 100 people that we don't know, that we have nothing in common with, that like we don't know them. We're not going to go blast them and send them connection requests. We want targeted people. Remember, the more targeted your connection requests are on LinkedIn, the more quality your network is. So you're not going to go out and just message everyone. Okay. We are getting very specific with who it is that we want to message. So you're first going to narrow down on positions or companies that you want to work for. Then you want to do your research. So you want to find someone that works for that company, or if you know someone that knows someone. Okay. So in my situation, when I got one of my bigger university teaching gigs, it was I knew someone that knew someone that knew the department head. And that took a little bit of research for me to find that out, right? And then I went full steam ahead. And I said, okay, I'm going to ask this person to put me in touch with this person, who then I'm going to ask that person to put me in touch with that person. So it takes a little bit of research, and it's not time consuming, but you just need to spend a couple of minutes doing it. You want to ask for the introduction. So ask them, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so who knows so-and-so? Or can you introduce me to so-and-so who works in this position? And then once you get introduced to that person, then you say, can you introduce me to so-and-so that basically is the hiring official? So it's really just a way of starting that networking journey. Now, I want to give you a special note. Whenever you're doing this, you always need to customize your connection requests. Always, always, always. If you've ever been to a live stream of mine or you've ever watched any of my videos, I always talk about connection requests and how you have to customize them. So make sure you give them a little note. And I'm going to share a slide with you. So there is no reason why you should not ever customize a connection request after you see this. So here is a quick little template that you can follow. Now I'll kind of just go through this really quickly. You're going to say, hi, so-and-so, whatever their name is. Maybe it's Bob, maybe it's Jane. Hi, Jane. I recently discovered you're a project manager for Corporation XYZ. And maybe Jane isn't a project manager. Whatever it is, you tailor this template. You say, I find it fascinating that you recently, and again, I put XYZ, you're going to put in there what it is that you find fascinating about them. And it could be something that maybe wasn't recent, that maybe they worked on a project 2 years ago that it really intrigues you, or maybe they know the same person you do. It doesn't matter. You are going to relate that in some way. And then you end with, would you mind if we connect here on LinkedIn? Kind regards, with your name. That's it. It's super simple, just a couple sentences, and that is your connection request template. Now, let me know in the chat again. I would love to know from you guys. Have you sent connection requests before that are customized? So do you customize your connection requests? Give me a yes or a no. Do you customize your connection requests? While you guys are typing that, let me remind you, we are taking questions at the end. So I know we have a lot of fantastic content to cover when it comes to basically reinventing your career during this economic crisis. We have a few more tips to share with you, but I will be taking questions at the end. And if you have not yet signed up for our free live virtual event next week, make sure you go to the link in the description below this video, or Tori also popped it into the chat. Make sure you go there. You're going to click on save your seat now. Once you get to this link, you're going to enter your name and your email address, and then I will be sending you all the information you need to join this live virtual event. We are talking all about how to write a resume that lands you more interviews and better job offers. So make sure, if you guys have not done that yet, that you save your seat for that. So let me see who has, okay, good. I see some yeses for yes, you are customizing connection requests. Steve says, boo on me. That's okay, Steve. You have a template now, so use that, okay? Alvin says, yes, good. Lisa says, no. Oh, Lisa, you have the template, though. Kristen says, no. For all those no's, use the template. Maria says, I sent one to you. Oh, good, Maria. And let me tell you, I get quite a few connection requests every day. And between Tori and I, we try and sift through all of them. So if I have not yet accepted your connection request and you want to connect, always send me an email at heather@professораustin.com, and Tori and I will make sure that we are a connection on LinkedIn. Okay, let's jump into, we are moving right along. We are going to jump into the fourth step when it comes to online networking. Remember, guys, we are still only on tip 1. I have 6 tips to share with you. I told you each tip could be its own live stream. Okay. Tip number 4, when it comes to online networking, attend virtual job fairs. So virtual job fairs are something that it's kind of popping up more as we've all kind of been sheltered in place, right? So and they're a little bit harder to find. What I would recommend here is finding some of those larger organizations that do job fairs and following kind of like what they're recommending. So they are always going to have like, here's the job fair, here are the companies that are participating. Here's what you need to do. And normally it's like a 9 a.m. to a 4 p.m. type thing. And you have like a specific time frame. Sometimes they last a couple days. Let me show you really quickly a job fair that Flex Jobs, if you guys know what Flex Jobs is. Flex Jobs recently put on a job fair the middle of April. And excuse me, the thing I really liked about their job fair is they give very specific instructions for what you can do when it comes to the job fair. So how to connect with the companies, what companies are hiring, so on and so forth. So again, that is tip number 4. And let me know, have you guys done a job fair before? Not a job fair, but a virtual job fair. Have you participated in a virtual job fair before? Give me a yes or no in the comments. Okay. We still have quite a bit to cover. So what I want to jump into next is and this is one of my favorite things to talk about, is create your 30-second pitch. So this is tip number 2. Again, we are covering tips that are going to help you in this economic situation we're in an economic downturn if you're looking for a job, or if a recession does come into play, or if we are in a recession. Either way, these are tips that are going to help you do this. So tip number 2 is to create your 30-second pitch. Now, when it comes to a 30-second pitch, I am going to share with you guys a 4-part formula to have a successful 30-second pitch. But before I jump into the four steps, remember that a 30-second pitch, it's a powerful representation of who you are. So this is also called like an elevator statement or an elevator pitch or whatever you want to call it. It's where you can explain to someone in 30 seconds basically what it is that you do and what you want them to know about you. Okay, in 30 seconds. And let me tell you, I've practiced mine before. I'm like 32 seconds. I've timed myself and I'm like, I got to get it down, because I even like to go less than 30 seconds because people's attention span is so short, right? So we want to make sure that we get this 30-second pitch down to even less than that. But the purpose of it is really to let others know what your expertise are, what are your greatest strengths, so what it is that you're good at. And keep in mind, it's not just for you to regurgitate all this stuff, it's to create a two-sided conversation. So you always want to end with something that is like, hey, by the way, like some sort of call to action at the end, like, would you mind if we do this? Or would you mind if we had a virtual chat, or whatever that might be. It used to be, could we go to coffee and talk about this more? But really, that maybe in a couple weeks, we'll be able to get back to that. Okay, let me show you, one more tip before I jump into the 4-part formula for the perfect pitch. You want to make sure that your 30-second pitch or your 30-second statement aligns with your resume, with your cover letter, and with your LinkedIn profile. Think of this as your entire career story, okay, within 30 seconds. And I know that's going to be super hard to do, but I have some questions for you to be able to use to ask yourself to form your 30-second pitch. So, first question. Who are you and who do you help? Now, let me give you just a quick example of what I would use. I would say something like, hey, I'm a career strategist helping professionals find their dream job so they can grow in a field they love or grow in a industry they love, whatever, okay? So who are you and who do you help? You could even put your name in front of that if you wanted, like, hey, I'm Heather Austin. I'm a career strategist, yada, yada, yada. So who are you? Who do you help? The second question you need to ask, this is, again, our 4-part formula to the perfect pitch, is why are you passionate about what you do? So why are you even doing this? Like, it could be any number of reasons, but what's the real reason behind you doing this? So what I could say is I'm most passionate about seeing my clients excited to get out of bed in the morning. I want my clients to experience a sense of fulfillment when they go to work every day, or when they go into the office, or whatever that might be. So that's what I'm passionate about. That's why I do what I do. So again, you would come up with, why do you do what you do? Okay, the third part to this formula is what makes you unique. So why are you so special over everyone else that does what you do? Why are you so special? So for example, and I'm just kind of throwing this out here, I could say something like, what makes me unique is the process I use to help my clients build confidence so that they can achieve their career goals. Okay, something just very basic and simple. It doesn't have to be long and drawn out. Again, remember, we want this to be a 30-second pitch. And then, of course, the last part to the formula is, how does the current opportunity relate to your goals and aspirations? So how does whoever you're talking to, or whatever opportunity you're thinking of, how does it relate to your current goals and aspirations? And let me just kind of give you an example of how I could say this. Like, let's say I'm meeting with another business owner, and I could say something like, I'm thrilled to learn that your company's vision of providing award-winning career guidance aligns perfectly with my goals and aspirations as a business owner. Okay, super simple, super basic. I'm not going to get all fluffy with my words. I'm going to practice this over and over and over. I've told you guys I've practiced before. I'm over 30 seconds, but I need to work on getting it down so that when I do meet someone, I'm not like talking their ear off, okay? And it's, again, designed to do a two-sided conversation. Now, I know that's a lot to digest. Again, you guys can jump and re-watch this replay at any moment. But the 4-part formula to the perfect pitch, this is something you definitely want to nail down when it comes to job searching right now. It is going to give you confidence beyond measure because you're going to have the resources that you need to either, meet someone for the first time, schedule that informational interview, do some more online networking, or if you go into an interview, how powerful is it to have that 30-second pitch ready? It almost gives you kind of like the backbone of any interview, like you're ready and you're ready to aim fire. And keep in mind, another way to look at the 30-second pitch is this is also like another way to answer the tell me about yourself interview question. And I know you guys have had that because it's one of the most commonly asked interview questions. So tell me about yourself. A 30-second pitch is a really good way to answer that. Now, I do change it up a little bit if I'm ever working with a client and I say, okay, here's your 30-second pitch. And then here's how you would answer the tell me about yourself. They're a little bit different, but they're so similar that if you get that 30-second pitch down, it gives you ammunition going forward into the interview. Now, before we jump into our next tip, I want to know what has been your biggest takeaway today? What has been your biggest takeaway so far from what we've covered today? And I have 4 more tips that I'm going to share with you really quickly, and then we will take questions. But what has been your biggest takeaway so far today? Now, if you guys think you're learning a lot in today's live stream, do not forget to register for our live virtual event next week. Again, we are talking all about how to write a resume that lands you more interviews and better job offers. We are going to talk about customizing your resume to fit almost any job. We're going to talk about how to write an attention-grabbing resume summary that hits employer-specific pain points. We're going to be talking about how to make your resume ATS compliant. And then, most importantly, for anyone that has been laid off, we are going to be talking about how to update your resume. So if you've been furloughed or if you've been laid off for any reason. So Tori has that in the chat. Also, in the description below this video, you will also find that. So make sure you jump in and register for that event. Okay, let's jump into tip number 3 really quick. Oh, this is a good one. And I have resources for you below this video that will help you with that. So tip number 3 is to make yourself relevant. So this is one of the things that I see people do a lot or not do, vice versa, is if you are either laid off or you're not working or you're still looking for a job, or maybe you are in one industry but you want to switch the other, there's always like 1 or 2 little skills that, like, if you just took a few minutes every day to learn this new skill or concentrate on this new skill, it would put you above and beyond your competition, and it gives you more confidence again applying for that position. So make yourself relevant. Now, there's a couple of, we're not jumping to step 4 yet. There's a couple of resources I want to give you when it comes to making yourself relevant in this current market. This is to basically search for free courses or ways that you can improve yourself. So boost up your skills when the job market picks up again, or if your industry is already really hiring like crazy right now. Is there anything that you think you could do in terms of a skill set that will help you stand above your competition? So consider taking continuing education courses to boost your skills. Now, I want to share with you guys some resources. I'm not expecting you don't have to screenshot this page there. And Tori, you don't need to share all these links in the chat, because they are all in the description below. So these are some of my favorite free learning resources right now. So courses from MIT and Harvard. You just go to www.edx.org. Microsoft Training Center, they are offering a slew of courses right now. This is such a great time that if there's like a Microsoft Office program, or there's something like you want to learn more about database management or whatever that is, you can jump into the Microsoft Training Center to brush up on some skills. And this stuff is free, guys. So there's no reason that if you have extra time on your hands that you can't at least take a look at some of these resources today. And then, of course, LinkedIn Learning. One thing I'm enjoying about LinkedIn Learning right now is they are offering. I don't have a premium membership on LinkedIn. I haven't ever needed one. I just don't. But one thing I love is right now, for even if you're not a premium member, they're offering certain courses for free. So it's almost like they're opening up a certain group of courses every week or every month. I'm not sure of the schedule they're on right now, but LinkedIn Learning is a great place to go and see what are some free courses that are out there that you could take to kind of make yourself more relevant. Here's the other cool thing about this is when you go into an interview and they say to you, hey, what have you been doing the last 2 months or 3 months since we've been on lockdown? And you say nothing, that's going to be a red flag to them. So you want to make sure that you are beefing up your skill set and saying, oh yeah, I took this course, or I learned this new skill, or I'm becoming really interested in this area or this specialization in the industry, and because of that I took this course or this course, whatever that might be. You want to be able to show or take a course or do something that is either going to beef up your resume or give you more confidence in the interview. So those are my favorite free resources. Now, tip number 4, really quickly, is consider temp, gig, or freelance work. This kind of goes along with that continuing education part. If you are working even part-time in some capacity, that's going to keep you fresh. I don't know about you, but if I stop doing things, like I feel like the first week of the pandemic or the first 2 weeks, I couldn't do anything. I'm like, what's happening? I can't even, I had no desire to even go and listen or learn on a podcast. I was just so focused on the news and what was happening. I had no desire whatsoever to learn. And it's almost like I froze, for about a couple weeks. And then I finally snapped out of it. And I was like, wait a second. By me not doing something, I'm not I get rusty. I need to come and do a live stream with you, or I need to create a new course, or I need to create a new workbook, or whatever that is. Anything you can, consider any sort of anything that will keep your skills fresh and new, and also show initiative when you are building your resume or updating your resume, which of course you're going to do next week, right? Hopefully you're registered for the free training next week with me live. If you sign up, you're going to get all the details in terms of how to join, where the link is, all that stuff. So we're going to be doing that next week. But again, and then freelance or gig or contract work also helps you. It gives you more confidence when you go into the interview, because then you can say, I didn't just sit around. Yeah, I took initiative to do something. And even if these freelance or gig works don't work out for you, you can say I at least tried. I really wanted to make an impact in our industry and in my using my skills and expertise. Such a great way to do it. Okay. Let's see. Where is my mouse here? Let me get to tip number 5. And again, any resources I'm sharing with you guys are in the description, and I could not end any of this live stream without saying, ready your resume. Okay. This is another thing that I've seen a lot of people are now thinking, oh crap, I got to get my resume ready. I got to get my cover letter ready. I got to get in my LinkedIn profile. If you're trying to do this last minute, there will be opportunity for error. Trust me, I meet with clients all over the world every week, and they're like, I sent my resume in for this position. Can you hurry and proofread it? And so I'll look at it and I'll be like, oh, there's this error and this error. And I'm like, oh, we got to work on this before you send it out. So my goal for you is to make sure that your resume is ready before you even send it to anyone. So again, that's what we're going to be doing at next week's workshop, is making sure that your resume is in tip-top shape. Now, I don't want to just say resume right this second, because I also want you to keep in mind your cover letter and your LinkedIn profile. I kind of look at all 3 of those, one in the same, but next week we are very, very, very focused on how to write a resume that lands you more interviews and better job offers. So make sure you sign up and register for that event. You're going to get an email from me right away that gives you more details, and then you'll get reminder emails before I go live to do that training next week. Now, tip number 6, and then we're going to jump into questions. Tip number 6, and you guys have heard me say this before, don't stop your job search. So one of you had mentioned earlier, one of you had mentioned earlier, hey, I don't want to bother people during this time, but let me tell you, like, we more than ever need to be connecting with each other. We more than ever need to develop relationships, and a new relationship is key for people. So make sure you continue your job search. Do not stop. It is one of the worst things you can do right now, even if you're using like just taking small baby steps every day. Do not stop your job search. Now, I want to give you guys an updated list of companies still hiring. These lists, and I did a little bit of research to find them for you. These are my 3 favorite resources. Now, I'm going to show you on the screen what they are as well. And they are also linked in the description. So this is the last slide I'm going to share with you. Believe it or not, I've only shared 26 slides with you today. So we covered so much ground today, guys. This was so amazing. I will be taking questions. So if you have a question, make sure you pop that in. Now, here is a list of companies still hiring. For this complete list, look in the description below the video. You'll find a link to all of these lists. I want to show you really quickly. Let me first get to this first one. So the first one is from LinkedIn, and this is actually a group of LinkedIn editors that are continually putting together a list to help you with your job search. So they're continually updating this, and that's why let me put my camera on here. That's why I included this list, because they're always adding new companies to it, or they're trying to stay as up to date as possible. So you'll notice these are all the companies that are hiring right now. So what I like about this list is it's just like a nice little list that you can quickly look at and see, hey, do I want to work for any of these companies or in any of these industries? So you'll notice, they have Instacart, Amazon, CVS, Dollar General, Walmart, FedEx, yada, yada, yada. Like, you guys could scroll through all of this, and notice it's also showing how many positions they're hiring for. Okay, so that's the first list. That was, let me jump back to that slide. That's from LinkedIn. Okay, now from JobScan, here's another really good list of individuals that are hiring. JobScan is continually putting out their list. And they're updating it live, of course, they say, right? So on JobScan's website, and again, all these links are in the description. So if you need to grab that, make sure you do. So these are, they're kind of showing you also, this is what I like about this list, where they are in the process. So if they're a hiring freeze, or if there's layoffs, if they're hiring, so on and so forth. There's so much valuable information here, you guys, that you can kind of sift through this data and see what fits you. Now, the next one, the last one on the list, is from the Muse. So the Muse has an updated list as well. What I like about their updated list, they'll show you right up here what day they updated it. Let me refresh this page really quick and see if it was updated. Yeah, so it hasn't been updated since the 23rd. I like up to the minute information, okay? But it's still a really good resource. Maybe things haven't changed that much since the 23rd. I like that they're showing the company, and they're kind of showing like more of a visual image of who's hiring, and companies that you could still apply for right now. So keep this in mind. I think these lists are going to live on for longer than what we're experiencing right now. I think these lists are going to kind of become like, they're going to kind of become like the new way of hiring, and that this is like a go-to, like it's almost like a go-to job board. So again, those all those companies are in the description below this video. So make sure you guys take a look at that. Questions, get those into the chat. And then I also want to know, I shared with you 6 COVID-19 job search tips. These are tips that are going to help you through the economic crisis, through a recession if we have one, or if we're already in one. I want to know again, what is your biggest takeaway? Now that you know the 6 tips, what is your biggest takeaway from today's live stream? Again, I will be answering questions. If you have one, you better get it in there, because I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you answer your questions. Awesome. Angela says, I'm just learning a lot in general. So good, Angela. I watched your videos and I used it with my clients, so this information is perfect. So happy to hear that, Angela. Thanks for sharing. Natalie says, I just got a job that I can work from home. Yay. That's like the best scenario. And then says, make sure they are legit. Yes, I could not agree more. And that requires just a tiny bit of research. So good. Candace says, love to learn. Coworkers call me the lifetime student. So good to hear that, Angela. Okay, in terms of the biggest takeaways, let's see. Alicia says, request informational interviews. Yes, if you guys leave here today, and if nothing else, please try and schedule at least 3 informational interviews, at least 3, to help you kind of navigate what's happening right now. Let's see. David says, the job search, good. Steve, much love from Canada. Yeah, Steve, awesome. Kevin says, informational interviews and continuous learning. So good. Sarah says, in what part of the interview do you do the pitch? Normally at the beginning. So you're not going to necessarily give your pitch at the end, because you're kind of like introducing yourself in that pitch. So it's normally always going to happen right up at the front, like right when you meet someone. I have a couple of videos, and they all kind of, one about tell me about yourself question. One is how to introduce yourself in an interview. And then one is the 30-second pitch. I kind of look at, they're a little bit different, but they kind of intermingle. Like if you could almost learn how to do all of those, you'll have your pitch down. Let's see. Someone says, I am motivated. Good information. Wyclef says, make yourself relevant. Good. Okay. I'm going to look at questions now so that we can get into those. And I know I'm going to kind of take first come, first serve. So if you have any other questions, make sure you pop those in. Also, if you are signing off and you don't want to stick around for the Q&A session, please make sure you sign up for the Resume Writing Masterclass next week. It is our free live virtual event. If you thought today was action-packed, this is action-packed. One of my favorite things of all time is to talk about resume writing. So make sure you take a look at that. Make sure you register. Also, Tori did mention earlier, she mentioned the not the career advancement toolkit. She mentioned the ultimate Kickstarter bundle. If you do not have this yet, this is a free resource for you. This basically has a free resume template, and it also has an interview guide cheat sheet. If you do not have this, I highly recommend getting it before next week's free live virtual event. It's going to give you a really good starting point if you have not yet touched your resume in a long time, or if you're just wondering, like, how do I make a really good resume right now? This will kind of give you an introduction to that. You're going to just click on, again, send me my bundle, enter your name and your email address, and you'll be able to see a bunch of the stuff that you'll have help with. Okay. So that is a free bundle for you. Make sure you take a look at that if you have not yet done so. Okay, let's jump into questions. So Jose asked, it looks like, Jose, you asked this a little bit earlier, is it better to wait for the job market to open or take the first opening? Oh, this is such a good question. So I get this quite a few times. What I would recommend, Jose, is you have to evaluate what's best for you. So for example, let's say you don't have like a 2 or 3 months or whatever, like 1 month of savings built up, and you need to pay your bills right now. My recommendation is take what you can get. Get out there and say, hey, like, yeah, I jumped into this because I need to make money. I need to pay my bills, right? If you do have a little bit of extra built up, and maybe the first job opening's not ideal, and in fact, it would hinder your professional happiness or whatever, then you might be safe to wait. But you really have to evaluate. That's something you have to evaluate based on your current needs, both like mentally, physically, emotionally, all that kind of stuff, financially. Good question. Okay, Candace says, is it a good idea to use Recruiter for job search? Yes. Okay. So Candace, I am not opposed to you using a recruiter. There's a lot of recruiters out there. In fact, I have family members and like best friends that are recruiters. And there are a lot of them out there that will really push for you, that will really help you get connected with your ideal job. So you got to get a feel for that recruiter, get a feel for do they have your best interest in mind? And then if so, and you have a good feeling about it, go forward with it full steam ahead. If they're not really helping you get to where you want to be, then definitely you have to keep your other options open. You have to do the work. You can't expect them to find the job for you and make it happen. Like, there's a lot you still have to do. So I would continue working on your own. And then if you have a good recruiter that you're working with, there's no harm in keeping that relationship going. Sam says, informational interview with whom? Okay, so Sam, I mentioned earlier to find 3 to 7 or 3 to 5 people that you want to conduct an informational interview with that are in your industry, or people that are doing what you want to do, or people that can put you in touch with someone that's doing what you want to do. It's basically just a way for you to start building relationships. Alvin, hey Heather, you mentioned informational interviews. Does it mean interview people from our social circle? This is such a good question, Alvin. It can be both. I like to, okay, so I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I am a very private person. So like when I first started my own business and doing what I do, like my friends and family didn't even know. Like they thought I was still like teaching at a university and like doing this and doing that. And I'm very private. So I probably wouldn't necessarily be reaching out to like people in my like closest social circle for that, unless I felt that they would really be able to like put me in touch with certain people, right? And they're not going to be opposed to doing that. Like your friends and your family want to help you in any way possible. But I kind of like to be a little bit more removed from that. And I like to say, who can I start a brand new relationship with? Who can I really learn from right now that can help me really discover like the best way into this industry? So it really depends on you, Alvin, and what you're comfortable with. Tal, hello. I'm so glad that you're here. He says, what would be a good header for LinkedIn message so it doesn't scare the recipient and encourages them to open and read the message? I love that. So let me go back to my template. I don't know if you saw this. You probably did. This is all going to depend on the person. Okay, so I get a lot of spam on LinkedIn. I don't know about you guys, but I get a lot of spam, and it's sometimes hard to sort through like who's really wanting to connect with me, or who's just trying to sell me something, or who's just trying to get my business or whatever. Like, I always think you need to start with their name. And what I have found a lot of the spam messages do, they're really lengthy, and there's almost like, hey, so-and-so, this is what we do. Would you like to do this too? And it's very lengthy. I would do just like, I think, Tal, if you have a short, quick little message, nothing complicated, don't go overboard with details, and send that out. I think that would probably be something that doesn't scare them off. Use their name. And also look in your own LinkedIn, look at the spam that's coming to you, and don't do what the spam messages are. Do the exact opposite, actually. Okay, Lisa, what if you're, let's see, you've already blasted everyone. Oh, okay. So this question came from earlier. She says, if you've already blasted everyone and anyone just to get more connections. Oh, okay. And then she says, should you remove the connections and start over? You can remove your connections. Yes, Lisa, I would see what it's looking like, because a lot of times, like, are people accepting those? Like, see if they are, because the damage is done, right? You can just move forward now. You know the proper way to connect with someone, and evaluate what connections are there. And if it's really meaningful ones, I would keep that connection request in there, and I would keep it in there for, like another 2 or 3 weeks. And if they're not accepting, remove it and then start over. But if it's people that you're like, who is this person? What does this person do? Can this person even help me? Or do they even have anything in common with me? I probably don't want to connect with them. Yes, then recall your connection request. Good question. Okay, Linda, are the slides going to be available after the webinar? Okay, so Linda, I normally don't make my slides available. So I do for all of my like World Class Career Academy students, and all my LinkedIn Profile Perfection students, and individuals that are like a student or a client of mine. But I don't normally make my slides available. Daisy, how do I write my resume? My experience in a company I'm currently working for, I'm in a search for a new job. Okay, so I'm not sure what you mean by how do I write my resume, my experience in the company. I'm going to tell you to come to the live virtual event next week. Make sure you register for that. The link is in the chat and in the description, because we're going to talk all about this. So today our focus was mainly on like job searching during the downturn. Next week, this is like a free virtual event. We are talking specifically about resumes. So we're even going to talk about how to write your experience section. It's actually going to be super jam-packed with some good tips. Candace, how to relocate during COVID-19. So Candace, do you mean relocating in terms of relocating a job, or relocating like you're planning on moving? If you're planning on moving, I would start networking. So all these tips that I've told you today, start networking with people in the location that you're going. So get those informational interviews on. Do that online networking as much as possible. Get your 30-second pitch ready. Ask for someone to do a virtual call with you so that you can give them your 30-second pitch. All that good stuff. And then research what's open. And then all those lists that I shared, look and see if there's anything in the specific area that you're moving to. Good question. Maria has 2 questions. I applied to a dream job a month ago. Okay. With a remote job placement site. I haven't heard anything back. I want to follow up. But the job posting doesn't have any direct info. While doing my research, I found the employer's personal email and the virtual assistant's personal. Yes, send them a follow-up. I would follow up with them 100% of the time. No questions asked. And hang on, let me get a drink really quick. So Maria, a couple weeks ago, was it last week, I think, and anyone that saw this video, and maybe Tori, if you can grab the link really quickly. Tori, by the way, thanks so much for being here. I love you, girl, and I could not do this live stream without you. Tori's also home homeschooling kids, and I have 4 kids that I'm homeschooling. It is like we're both about, well, Tori, I'll speak for myself. I'm about to lose it, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so let's see what I would recommend doing when it comes to the follow-up is last week I put out a video. So Tori, if you can grab this video, and I share a template for how to follow up specifically during this current situation, the current economic situation. So go to that video. I don't have a download for it. Just take a screenshot, type it up, and send it to them. KLS says, what is the purpose of cover letters? Good question, KLS. Cover letters are such a fantastic resource. Let me tell you, I know I get people that are like, why do I even need one? Do I even need one? Like, what's the point? Cover letters are such a great way to tell your career story. Okay. I use cover letters all the time with my students and my clients. We repurpose them into like new emails to introduce themselves. It's also a way you can like take what you've written, you can turn that into your elevator pitch. Like there's so many ways to use a cover letter. What I like to say is once you get your cover letter written, it's kind of like you just put yourself out on paper, right? You just listed your most important accomplishments, your expertise, all the cool things that you do, and you're selling yourself. Regardless if the company needs that, you just put that out on paper. It's in your mind. You're fresh. You know what to talk about in an interview. Cover letters to me are like so fabulous, even if you're not sending them to an employer. Even if the employer doesn't need it, still write one. And I have a lot of resources on cover letters. Pablo, is it relevant to add in LinkedIn under experience, a brief description of the company? Yes. So LinkedIn, we did a 3-day workshop a couple weeks ago all about LinkedIn. It's not available anymore, but I'll do one again in the future. When it comes to LinkedIn, you want to list your experience, and then, just like a resume, and then you list the company, and then list a brief description. I would actually, instead of a brief description of the company, I would list what it is that you've done. Like what your expertise are. What are your greatest accomplishments? What did you do there that was super notable? Okay, Alvin, is it the right time to try out different industry to gain more experience? That depends on you, Alvin. Again, that's going to be a personal choice. I think here's what I can say. Because of what's happening, if you are in an industry that you're not going to see an uptick in hiring anytime soon, definitely now is a great time to kind of like switch focuses. Yes. But again, that's where you have to evaluate like what is important to you. How is that going to happen? All that good stuff. Sam, is it important to sharpen your skills first before getting a job where you can be successful? Not necessarily, Sam. Okay. And it depends on what you're talking about and what the skill is. So if you're applying for a position and it's a skill that is like, you're going to be using this every day, there's no room for error. Yes, you want to make sure that skill is nice and sharp. If it's okay and you could get into the job and you can still learn while you're there, then I wouldn't be too stressed out about it. I have gotten jobs where I didn't even know how to do the job. And I learned while I was there. This was, if you guys have heard me say this before, this was after college. I was like, oh, there's these jobs. I'm going to apply for them. I'm going to go in and ace the interview. And I talked my way into the job. I don't know how. I had no business being there. And I learned while I was there. So it depends on the skill. It depends on the industry. And it depends on kind of like your confidence level. And if you feel like, hey, I can learn this on the job, or maybe I should take a course before I do this. Vanessa, hello. So glad you're here, Vanessa. Is it a good idea to leave a career at this time? I still have a job. However, I would like to pivot to something else that is something I'm more passionate about. Vanessa, what I would recommend doing for you, and I think I kind of know what you're talking about here. I'm not a big proponent of leaving and like having that gap of like doing nothing in your employment. I would say, do you have any leeway in there where like, you go to your job, you're working in your job, but there's this thing that you're super passionate about? Do you have any leeway in there where like 1 hour or 2 hours a day you can put toward that passion of yours, or start exploring something like doing the job searching? Okay, so don't necessarily leave, but yes, now is a great time. Now is better than ever. You guys, this has never happened in the history. Well, okay, it has 100 years ago. Like things like this have happened, but never like this. Like this pandemic or this current economic crisis is going to shake things up so much. Like we are just seeing the beginning of what it's going to look like. So if you have something else in mind that you want to pivot to, or that you're thinking of, like it is a great time. You also have to evaluate, like, again, on your own personal standpoint, like, is this going to work with my family, for my family? Do I have a backup savings plan? Like you kind of have to evaluate that. But I would say, Vanessa, because I think I know what you're talking about. Yes, for you. Okay. Morali says, generally, many people say don't shift jobs frequently. Stick with the company for at least 2 years or more. What's your opinion on this? Okay. This is a good question. This is what I think personally, is that I don't think it matters as much anymore. Now, my parents both worked for the government. My dad was a teacher also for the state government. He was there 25, 30 years. My mom worked for the federal government. She was there 20 years. Like back when I was going to college, like like my generation, we're very loyal. Like we're very much like, we're going to stick with the company for like 10 or 15 years. Like that's to us like an accomplishment, right? Where a lot of the younger generation, if they don't like what they're doing in 2 years, like then they'll get out. So I don't think that there's like a right or a wrong way to approach it. I do think that it's not as big of a deal. Okay. I do think that like, younger generations are coming up into leadership and so on and so forth. I don't think it's as big of a deal to stay in a job that you don't like just to say, oh, I was there for 5 years or I was there for 10 years. I'm a big believer in doing what you're passionate about. In fact, I mentioned to you guys earlier, like one of my greatest passions is seeing you like excited to get out of bed in the morning and go to work, or, like going to work and feeling value, like feeling like you're making a contribution. So I think that's kind of what I would say to that. Okay, awesome. Vanessa, looks like you have another question in here. You're just saying, I have the time and have been doing some skill up leveling. Good. Okay, so good. I'm so glad to hear that, Vanessa. I would take an hour or 2 hours a day and really like evaluate that. Thanks so much for the follow-up. Okay. Question. For my resume, in my last job, I had 4 to 5 titles, responsibilities in the same company, in the same laps. How should I put them since they were all under the same company? So there's a really strategic way you can format your resume for this. I would have the job, the company name, and then, have that bold, like a little bit larger. And then right below that, in another bold, like the title, and then have like a description or like bullet points under each title. That's actually not super difficult to do. A lot of people are in that same situation, and that's good because it's showing that you have a career progression. Candace, should I take the LinkedIn skills quiz? I'm not sure what you mean by this, Candace. You mean on LinkedIn, like to find out like what skills you should be listing? You could do that. What I would recommend doing to Candace when it comes to skills on LinkedIn is I would list your most important skills first, regardless of what this LinkedIn skills test tells you. I would list them as if, or here's another way to look at it. There's two ways to look at this. I know we're kind of going over time here. I promised Tori we'd only be here an hour, so we're gonna get through this. I think that with the LinkedIn skills quiz, you can list your positions list the skills that maybe the top 3 that you have the most endorsements for. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is what skills you want to be known for, and what can you rack up endorsements for throughout time that can show that you really qualify or that you really have that skill. Good question. Linda, hello, Linda. Linda says, I'm a member of the LinkedIn profile perfection. Yay. Will I be able to access the slides there? Linda, I will put those slides there for you. I will put them into LinkedIn profile perfection for you, or because you are one of my students / clients, yes, I will give you access to them. Okay, Jessica, how does doing a follow-up call in under a week to a job you've applied for help your chances of securing a position? If most employers know who they want to interview based off of resumes. Okay. I'm not sure if I totally understand this question, Jessica, but I'll take a stab at it. So what I think you're talking about is following up in under a week. So my recommendation is always that you're finished with the job. If you've applied and you haven't heard anything back, always follow up within 1 week. I continually like to follow up within two or 3 weeks, maybe even longer right now because of the current situation we're in. And you said, how does that secure your chances if they want to interview you based off of your resume? Because it's kind of like it's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Okay, like if they're looking at 5 resumes and those resumes are all very identical, if like 3 of those people are like knocking at the door and saying, "Hey, I'm here. I applied for this job. I'm really super excited to move forward," chances are they're going to interview those 3 people. Okay, the 2 people that are like laying low and not saying anything and like they're off the radar. So it's to really help you stay on their radar. Okay, Alvin, can we use the PowerPoint to pitch ourselves instead of okay. I think what you're saying is the tips that I shared to pitch yourself instead of a CV. I'm not sure what that question is, Alvin. I see. I think I see what you're saying. Are you talking about doing a PowerPoint presentation to pitch yourself instead of using a CV? Definitely need a CV, 100%. Unless the company is asking for some sort of like visual representation of you, then you could always do some sort of PowerPoint, but I would definitely always have a traditional CV or resume on hand. Okay, I think I answered this question. Is a good time to switch a job. Next one, volunteering for passionate topic while searching for a job. Shoot, I'm not sure what that question is. It's like okay, how to list your current status on LinkedIn if furloughed or laid off. Such a good question, Mel. I'm so glad you asked this. So we are going to be covering this exact topic next week during next week's live stream. When it comes to, well, it's not necessarily a live stream. It's a free virtual event. So it's a lot more interactive than this, and a lot more slides and a lot more information. So we are going to specifically be covering this next week. what I would do is there's a few different ways you could do this. You could mention furloughed right now, or if you haven't yet like received an official notice, I would just leave it open. Like I wouldn't put anything just yet. I would wait another couple weeks to see how things go, because you might see a shift in the next week or two, depending on where you live and what your position is, where you're going to be able to be hired back on, or whatever that might be. It totally depends on your situation. Okay, what if we are laid off from our job and have been out coming up on 6 months? Okay, so normally with a gap, it's not a huge concern unless it's like over 6 months. So if you've been laid off, it's kind of like a whole nother strategy that we need to work on. And that's like a whole nother live stream. In fact, I think I do have a video just on this exact topic. But if you have been laid off, what you need to focus on is focus on your network, focus on really beefing up your resume. What have you been doing during the last 6 months? Why were you laid off? Not that you're necessarily going to mention that in the resume. Why were you laid off? Like that could possibly be something you talk about in the cover letter. Really like beefing up all your career documents so that when you start pushing them out to people, you're confident in your expertise, and regardless of the layoff, like you know that you can do the job. So there's a lot of ways to approach that. Okay, let's say you are passionate about a job, or feel that you are right for a job, but they want a cover letter that someone helped you write because your writing skills are poor. How likely? They're not going to know if someone writes your cover letter for you. So I work with a lot of professional resume writers, and I get a lot of clients. Sometimes they're like, Heather, I just don't want to write my own resume. And so I have a team of resume writers, professional resume writers that I work with, and they'll write the cover letter, the resume, the LinkedIn profile. They do it all for you. So an employer is not going to know if someone else does it. So I wouldn't be worried about that. If you feel like you have poor writing skills, again, refer back to that slide that I shared of the free courses. Like go and take a writing course for like a month or 2 weeks or 10 days, whatever that might be. Okay, Sarah, we are moving in a couple months. I am looking for a new job. Where we are going. Do I include the new city on my resume? Okay, this is a good question. I get this question every day from people. What I would recommend doing if you are going to a new city, if you have someone like a friend, a family member, whoever that can vouch for you live at this address kind of a thing, even though you might not live there full time yet or whatever, you need to have like some sort of like a parent, a relative you can use their address. Now, you're not necessarily going to even be putting your address on your resume, but like in a job application, if that comes up, you could put the city and the state. And then if they ask you, it's totally okay to have that new address moving forward. I have a lot of clients and students that do this because they want to be in a different state or even in a different country. But make sure that you can like kind of vouch for that. Like it's not just some random, and if you want more clarification on that, Sarah, then send me an email. But I think you'll know what to do. Okay, someone says, hello, Professor Heather. My work experience is all retail management. What key tips for the resume to change industries? Okay, so I would focus on, first of all, what industry you want to switch to. And there's, you'll, with a little bit of research, especially with those jobs hiring that I listed, you'll be able to find some good information there. I would focus on anything that's transferable. So let's say you were in retail management. Your leadership skills, your communication skills, were you good with like the register, whatever they call it now, like, were you good? Like, what were your expertise? If it's like something that can go easily into like a whole nother industry, focus specifically on that. So like you would take your accomplishment statements, and we'll talk about this more at next week's free live virtual event. You would take your work experience and you would change your accomplishment statements to show the transferable skills. So like what I said, like leadership, communication, you would focus specifically on anything that's transferable. And it's okay to have a few specific retail management statements in there. That's totally fine. But again, we want them to look at your resume and say, oh, wow, like, yeah, even though this person's been in retail management, they've been working really hard, they're dedicated, they're determined. If we hire them, they're going to stick around for a while. They're easy to work with. Like, really, that's what employers are looking for. Like, they want to know, like, they want that more of that personal connection with you. Is endorsements on LinkedIn matter? How to get endorsements? Yes, LinkedIn endorsements do matter. They are becoming more and more popular. They were popular for a really long time, and then I kind of feel like they went to the wayside, and now it's becoming more of a thing. You ask people to endorse you. Just be like, hey, so-and-so, I have this, I listed this skill. Would you be okay endorsing me? But you also have to endorse people. Tony, hello, Tony. I applied to a job, but I noticed that my resume had a punctuation error. Forgot a space. Okay, forgetting a space is not bad. That is not a bad punctuation error. Will the HR look at this? No, that's not a bad thing. It's when there's like a misspelled word or like, oh geez, I don't know. There's like certain things that show up all the time when I review resumes, but no, a space is not a huge issue. Do not let that alter your confidence, Tony. Okay, is it a good idea to volunteer during this time while job searching? Heck, yes. As a way to show you weren't idle. Yes, 100%. If you can volunteer or contract work or freelance or gig work, whatever it is, yes. Volunteering is such a great way to keep your skills sharp, to show that you are taking initiative, to show that you have what it takes. Also, it's a great way to develop new relationships that could lead to new job opportunities. Okay, what if you want to change industries completely? How should you update your LinkedIn summary? Okay, this is a good question. And by the way, I want to know from you guys so far. I haven't asked you guys a question. If you're still here with me live, type into the chat, what is your biggest takeaway today? I know that there's a lot of you that have mentioned some really good takeaways, but I want to know if you're still here. Type into the chat, what is your biggest takeaway so far today? What if you want to change industries completely? How should you update your LinkedIn summary? So I always recommend tailor your LinkedIn profile to the industry you want to be in. Now, this was a big struggle for me for a lot of years because my LinkedIn profile was so tailored to like teaching at a university, right? Well, then I started my own business and I then wanted to switch gears because instead of now teaching at a university, I wanted to work with professionals all across the globe, helping them find their dream job. So I really had to transition and it was hard. I like dug my heels in and I did not flip that switch on my new summary for a really long time. And I kick myself now for not doing it because the longer I waited, the longer it took me to step into what it is that I'm doing now. So I highly recommend tailoring your summary and your entire LinkedIn profile to the industry that you want to be in. And if there's skills that maybe you're lacking or there's something that the new industry requires that you don't have, get that skill. Do what it is that you need to really make your profile and your resume shine. And then focus on transferable skills. Okay, Jessica, how do I explain a 4-month job gap in an interview after leaving my job because they were doing unethical things and it was mentally unhealthy to stay there? I'm in the social work field. Okay, so Jessica, in your specific industry, you're actually in a good place because you'll understand like the psychology behind being in a work environment that is healthy for your well-being, for your your social well-being, all that good stuff. What I would recommend is I would not recommend bringing it up unless they bring it up to you, and then I would have a story behind it. Now, when you have a story behind it, you're not going to throw anyone under the bus. You're not going to throw the company under the bus. You're not going to talk bad about people. When you go into an interview and if you're talking bad about other people and all that kind of stuff, that's a red flag to them. You have to paint a picture of this is what was happening. I was not comfortable with this, therefore I decided to leave. So you're not going to say, oh, my boss did this or my company did this. You just say, this is what was happening. I was not comfortable with it and therefore I decided to leave. Like it could be a quick sentence. Don't focus on it. Don't drag it out. You don't want it to be like it's just a fact that you're going to share with them and move on. Like you're not going to even go into too much detail unless, of course, the person interviewing wants you to go into more detail, but hopefully they don't, because you're not living in the past. You're now moving forward. Good question. Tony says, OMG, thank you so much, Heather. Looking forward to the resume virtual event. Awesome, Tony. Jessica says, takeaway, I know I'm not alone and I have more hope because of today's session. Awesome, Jessica. Mel says, greatest takeaway, make yourself relevant. Yes. Linda says, developing relationships via LinkedIn and requesting informational interviews. Marsha's biggest takeaway, make yourself relevant. Mel, can you please share some website links for volunteering? So Mel, this is going to be very specific to your industry. So I would look at what industry you're in and what opportunities are available, because it's so vast with whatever industry you're in. Okay, a couple more questions there. Sarah, I was a 4th grade teacher before changing careers. Awesome. I have a daughter that's in 4th grade, so I know how challenging a 4th grade teacher is, and I'm trying to homeschool a 4th grader. We're doing fractions and all that good stuff right now. Currently, I'm an instructional designer. Good. Instructional design is a fantastic place to be in. If I was not doing what I'm doing right now, that's the field I would probably be in. How do I list my teacher position on my resume? Instead of 4th grade teacher, what about educator? Yes, I love that word, educator. You could also use if you don't want to put elementary school teacher, elementary educator, whatever. Like there's a lot of good juicy terms you could use there. But I love your option, Sarah. Okay, P. Wing says, I transferred to a new university. Should I include my previous university on my resume? I would not include your university unless you received a degree. So if you had an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, fine. If not, do not put it on there. Only include the university you're attending and when your graduation date is. Oh, okay. How to prepare for a Zoom interview. A couple of tips, please. Okay, I actually did an entire live stream. That was my last live stream a couple weeks ago, all about video interviews. So if you have not yet seen that, make sure you take a look at that. Tori, maybe can you pop that into the chat? And we're going to wrap up here in just a second. But it gives you all the tips that you need. There are some really good ones there too. Mel, I answered your question, Mel. Awesome. Okay, I think we're getting close. Let me just see. Greatest takeaway. Someone says, keep working hard. Searching for a job even during this hard times. Yes, and again, make sure you refer back to that list. It's also below this of companies still hiring. I gave you 3 fantastic resources for that, so that should really be able to help you. Okay, Maria, I'm volunteering for a friend's business because she can't afford to pay me. Should I specify that it was volunteer in the professional experience section of my resume? Or should it be separate? So Maria, I think it depends. So it depends on the type of position, first of all, and it depends on if you were there, if you've been there for a while. So let's say you were an employee for your friend's business and things are starting to go south for her just a little bit. And now she's like, I just can't pay you anymore. You could keep it on as just a regular professional experience section, okay, on the resume. And this is what I think. I think what's happening now is going to change the way we do things. And that's why I'm hosting next week's virtual event, because I actually feel like it's going to change the way we write resumes. I feel like it's actually going to be okay to list a volunteer gig as a regular or list a contract work or freelance work in that work experience section. Now, depending on how long this lasts, who knows? Maybe that's not going to change things up, and I could just be, not correct here. But I think it's going to change just a little bit how we look at things. So I think it depends on the position, Maria, and I also think it depends on what you're doing, and it depends on what you're applying for. Okay, so there's so many factors that go into play with this. Maria, I'll make sure that I cover this a little bit more during next week's live virtual event. So if you haven't yet registered, make sure you do. And then there's an email that's going to come to you that I say, after you register, I say, what's your biggest struggle? And give that to me. So I know to make sure to cover it next week. But I think if you and it depends on how much experience you can add. Like, normally when it's a volunteer job, you've only been doing it for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 or 3 months, short term. And that's what I'm thinking your situation is. And then in that case, you have a volunteer experience because you don't have a lot of depth to it. Like you haven't been there for a super long time to really say, hey, these are my expertise. These are my accomplishments. But if you can put that in there, it might be okay to put it into an experience section. Awesome. Okay, you guys, Tori just popped into the chat. The two super important resources for you, the new free virtual event happening next week. Make sure you click on the link. It's professораustin.com/liveclass to register for that event. Also, she popped in there the Kickstarter guide. If you guys do not have that, get it before the event next week. It's going to give you a good, huge head start on your resume and to the virtual event. Okay, one more question. Angela popped in. What will be your advice on people with criminal background? Should they mention anything during the application process? I would not mention anything during the application process if they do not ask. And then, which most application, if you have to do an entire job application, a lot of times they will. Wait for the interview to discuss it, okay? Again, Angela, and if you're in that situation, make sure you're connecting and networking with people that know your work value and your work ethic and are willing to look past that, okay? Okay, awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to see you next week. We are going to have a blast at this live virtual event all about how to write a resume that lands you more interviews and better job offers. Thank you so much, everyone who signed up. I can't wait to join you, and I will see you all next week. Please stay safe, stay well, stay happy, and we will connect again next week.